कि जिंदगी मेरी सौ ख्वाहिशां हाय कि जिंदगी मेरी सौ ख्वाहिशां मैं पूरी करा.
Hello, in this video basically I'll be doing one or two problems. One of the problems is the unsolved one from the previous video, and one or two new problems, okay, based on average velocity itself. Okay, so the question that I had given in my video number 2 of motion in a straight line was something like this. A particle, listen to this carefully, a particle of the entire displacement travels half the displacement with a velocity of v naught. So of its entire journey, half the displacement the particle travels with the velocity of v naught, and of the remaining half of the displacement, it travels for half the time of the remaining time with a velocity of v1, and for the remaining half the time of the remaining time the particle travels with the velocity of v2. The question was to calculate the average velocity for the entire journey. Okay, right? So let's try to do this. Okay, first I clearly can categorize this problem in that division. In what category? In that category where the entire journey is split into two equal displacements. So half the displacement with a certain velocity, half the displacement with a certain other velocity. But the problem here is, why this problem is little more complicated than just that, is because you don't know what the velocity in the remaining half of the displacement. So what you can do this is, and looks like the remaining half displacement is in the first category. What's the first category? When the entire journey is divided in two equal intervals of time. So this is actually a combination of those two categories. The entire problem can be put into that category where the total displacement is divided in two equal half displacements. But the second half of the displacement in itself can be put into the other category. What's the other category? Where the total displacement is divided in two equal intervals of times. So first we'll solve that, get the average velocity for the second half of the displacement, and we are going to use that average velocity to be the velocity during this journey. And therefore I can use the formula 2v1 v2 divided by v1 plus v2. But before reaching there, for this journey at least I have to use v1 plus v2 by 2 formula, right? Okay, and if you're not understanding what formula I'm talking about, please check the link, this link, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Fine. I'm sorry. So for this journey, let me try to calculate v average for this journey alone. I want to calculate v average for that journey alone, and that I'll be calling it as v dash. The average velocity during this journey alone, I'm going to call it as v dash. Okay, so v dash, what's the formula? What does the formula say? When the total journey is divided in two equal intervals of time, the formula says that average velocity is simply v1 plus v2 by 2. So average velocity for this journey is v1 plus v2 by 2, and I can use that as the velocity to be the velocity during this entire journey. I can use this and use this velocity and this velocity to calculate the average velocity for the entire journey. What is the formula for the average velocity if your entire journey is divided in two equal displacements? The formula, if I remember it right, is basically 2v1 v2 divided by v1 plus v2. That will give you the average velocity. What is your v1 according to this formula? Your v1 is actually v naught for this problem, as far as this problem is concerned. And what's your v2? Your v2 is the velocity for the remaining journey. And what's that v2? That v2 is going to be your v dash, which you have already calculated here. So your v dash is v2 and v naught is v1. And I'm going to use this to give you the average velocity. Just do that and you'll get your answer. Alright? Okay, so let's substitute in and get the value. Simple, very simple it is now. So VA is equal to 2, instead of V1 you have your V0. Instead of v2 you have your v dash. So 2 v naught v dash divided by v naught plus v dash. All you have to do is solve this. So v average is equal to 2 times v naught into, what's your v dash? V dash in itself is v1 plus v2 by 2, right? So your v1 plus v2 divided by 2 whole divided by v naught plus v dash again. How much is v naught? Is v naught only. How much is v dash? v1 plus v2 by 2. If we simplify this 2 gets cancelled, this 2 gets cross multiplied, and not only it, and then it will become, if you just add these, you will get, and this 2 will go to numerator, you will get 2v naught into v1 plus v2 divided by 2v naught plus v1 plus v2 plus v2, and that is your average velocity. Your average velocity is this 2v naught into v1 plus v2 divided by 2v naught plus v1 plus v2. Okay, and especially for this for the student who has commented while I was making this video, was lucky. I hope you got this answer. Okay, yeah, fine. So this is one of the ways actually to do this problem. What is the other way? This is us if I know the formula of average velocities in different cases. What's one case? When entire journey is divided in 2 equal displacements, and other cases when the entire journey is divided in 2 equal intervals of time. This was a combination of those 2 cases, right? The entire journey was the first case, and the second half of the journey was the second case. So what I did, I solved first the second half, got the average velocity there using this case, and used whatever velocity I got there to be the velocity during this entire journey. This velocity v dash is actually can actually be used as the velocity during this entire journey, and then I used this formula 2v1 v2 by v1 plus v2 as the average velocity in the first case, and eventually got this. But what if you don't know these formula? What if suddenly these formula do not strike you in your mind during the examination? No worries. In that case, we can just use the very definition of average velocity and use the fundamentals and still get the answer. What is the fundamentals? That average velocity is basically total displacement by total time. Let's try to solve it that way. Okay? Fine. It's fucking hard. Restart here. Okay, let's try to solve this with the fundamentals. What is the fundamental? The total displacement by total time is average velocity. So what do? Let's say this time interval right here is some t dash, or I'll call it some t1, and the remaining time interval, let it be t2. So to begin with, or what I'm going to eventually do is the average velocity is total displacement, which is s, by the way, s, of which half the journey is traveled with the velocity v naught of the remaining half journey, and for the remaining half journey got divided into 2 equal intervals of times, and for this time the velocity is v1, for the remaining time the velocity is v2, and if you notice carefully, this remaining journey is still s by 2. Okay, fine. But to use the very fundamental formula for average velocity, what was the most fundamental formula for average velocity? Total displacement by total time. If I'm going to use that, average velocity will be total displacement, which is s, divided by total time, which is going to be simply t1 plus t2. t2 in fact is t by 2 plus t by 2, which I can simply write it as t in fact. t2 is, I don't really need t2. t2 is actually t by 2 plus t by 2. So t1 plus t is my total time. But the problem is I don't know none of these. I don't know t1, I don't know t. All I have to give my answer is in terms of v0, v1 and v2. Right? Let's try to get that. It's okay. So my displacement is still s. I'm trying to go and get the values of t1 and t2. T1, let's work on t1. T1 is this displacement by this velocity. Right? So t1 I can simply write it as s by 2 by v0. So t1 basically is s by 2 v0. I can use this in place of t1 if I need it, and soon I'm going to do that. But what is more important is to get the value of t here. Let's see. Let's try to get the value of t. Okay. How do I do that? This displacement, remaining displacement of s by 2, I think can be written like this. This displacement plus this displacement becomes this displacement, which is s by 2. How much is this displacement? This displacement is going to be this velocity into this time, which is v1 into t1 by 2. v1 into t by 2, I'm sorry, v1 into t by 2. Plus this displacement is simply v2 into t by 2. Right. So looks like what I can do is write this time, if I need, this time t actually is going to be equal to s by v1 plus v2. Right? So t we got. How much is t? S by v1 plus v2. And how much is t1? S by 2 v0. I can use these two. If I substitute back in this formula, I'll get my answer. Right? So let's go back to my formula. V average is total displacement divided by total time, which is t1 plus t. How much is t1? S by 2 v0. Plus, how much is how much is t1? S by 2 v0, which we have already written. How much is t? T is s by v1 plus v2. Right? If I simplify this further, s I can take common, I can cancel it, it will go to numerator. Yeah, you will eventually get the very same answer, 2v0 into v1 plus v2 divided by 2v0 plus v1 plus v2. Simplify this and you will get this. And now see, does this answer match the answer with the formula? Yes. Is it necessary to know all those formulas? No. Is it necessary to know the fundamental definition of average velocity? Yes, sir. What is average velocity? Average velocity basically is total displacement by total time. We did that way. We got the answer. And yes, I understand. I agree. This takes longer time. So is it good to remember the formula? Yes. And if you're really, if you're interested is, I'm sorry, stammering a lot. If you're interested is just to understand what is going on, this is enough for you. If you want to clear some exam, remembering the formula, will that help? Yes. Okay. So, but without knowing the formula also, you could have done the problem like this by knowing the very fundamental definitions. What is average velocity? Total displacement by total time. Did it take longer this method? Yes. Did I do faster in that method? Yes. Is that very necessary to know the answer? No. Is it good to know that? Yes. Is it good to know the formula? Yes. The more number of formula you remember, it is always going to help you save time cracking the entrance exams, but not really 100% necessary to understand physics. Okay? Yeah. So if I were you, would I try to remember the formula? Maybe. I will. Okay? Fine. Let's do one more problem. Alright. It's sweating a lot. Yeah. This problem goes something like this. A particle for half the displacement of the entire displacement traveled with a velocity of v1. Of the remaining half the displacement, For the first 1/3 of time, the particle traveled with the velocity of v2, and the 2/3 of time, 2t by 3, the particle traveled with the velocity of v3. This is a little so these numbers make it little more complicated, but still you can solve it. Don't worry, right? So what happened? The end of the entire journey, first half of the displacement, the particle traveled with the velocity of v1. Okay, and for the second half of the journey, 1/3 of the time, the particle traveled with the velocity of v2, and the remaining 2/3 of the time, the particle traveled with the velocity of v3. Calculate the average velocity. Okay, fine. I'll give the answer to this question in the description. You can check it out there. Fine. Okay, so all the best. I hope you learned something new here. And in my next class, please be with me here for a minute. In my next class, what I'll do is I'll go straight to acceleration, and where things get really interesting. Like I said already, if you think that 1D motion is very monotonous and very simple, very simple, think again. Okay, yeah. All the best. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.